Good morning, everyone. Back to Mondays, and it's Monday motivation. Temperatures dropped a bit, so a proper title for today, Life in the Freezer. There we go. How's that to get your head around? We might be moaning because it's dropped to about 17 or 18 degrees plus, so we might hear what life's like at minus 50. Thrilled to have Mark Wood with us, explorer, been all over the place, North Pole, South Pole, up mountains, and pretty big ones too, and taken all the challenges that come with that. So look forward to welcoming him to come and talk to us. If you could all please just make sure you're on your mute, and we'll have Q&A, and there's also the chat box open as well. So we'll keep an eye on that. So over to your good self, Mark Wood.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. Motivational Monday will not consist of press-ups or squat thrusts or anything like that, so you can relax. I'm not that sort of motivated on a Monday, but it is very good to speak to you all this morning. I gave a talk right at the very start of COVID-19, actually before it really, we broke down and started to sort of go home. I gave a talk live actually for these guys, and at the time I then talked about coping mechanisms for surviving or dealing with being isolated, and now we're all explorers. We're all used to these coping mechanisms. We've found our own path, what works for ourselves, what works for our families, and maybe for our businesses, but maybe we're still trying to work that one out. So it's been quite a long journey for all of us. And at the start, I said that the definition of an explorer is to step into the unknown. And I think by pure definition, we are all explorers. My past 18 years has been consisting of expeditions to the magnetic, geomagnetic, geographic poles, North, South Pole, geographic, 35 major expeditions. I stepped into expeditions because I just wanted to test myself physically and mentally. So it was a very selfish entrance into exploration. But then over the years, I started to see a purpose for my ventures, which then linked directly with education and also with businesses as well on development. We have a very short period of time this morning. So what I'm going to do, rather than talk about different situations through my expeditions that brought me up to this point, I'm going to just pick on one expedition. That's all, because it incorporated both the technology we're using now and also a decision that I made in this area that probably changed my life, which is a real key thing to business as well. Things happen like this, like COVID, that make you rethink, restructure, and move forward. My previous work was military, then I went into fire and rescue. So I've had a very active sort of background as well before exploration. Once I started to develop the expeditions, my then purpose, as I said, was through education and business, but it became more of an awareness of the environment as well. So I wanted to show people the true worth of the planet and how we are in need of keeping this planet going for the human race. And, you know, I could come out some really long lines like, you know, we are dependent on our reducing our ignorance as human beings to look after the planet. But that is, again, another talk. But I didn't want to not say that, because it is so important to me for people to understand what these scientists have been saying for 60 odd years. So I do incorporate that into my work as well. And on top of that, I'm doing a documentary. I've done a couple, but I'm doing one now that we've been working on for 3 years, working with 2 big production companies, Diamond Docks and Hardy Son and Baker, with Tom Hardy. It's called Solo 100. The the main part of the documentary is going to be in 2022 now. It was going to be next year. So, you know, I've developed the expeditions quite well over the years, and we are now reaching a large audience, and that's what I want to focus on for the next 5 minutes. Way back in 2008, I stepped into the Skype office in London and said, I've got an idea where I want to create the most extreme classroom environments on the planet, linking with as many students as possible. After their agreement, I then found myself, this is skipping right forward, on the side of Mount Everest in the death zone, linking to 200 young people in Australia from the death zone on Everest. So on the expedition itself, we had 10,000 students following me on the journey. And it wasn't just linking to a website. We were Skyping them every single day of the expedition, right from Kathmandu all the way through the valleys and then hitting the death zone. And if you don't know what that is, it's where you move above a certain height of 7,000 to 7,500 meters. And that's when your body starts breaking down, because you're in an area which is giving you 30% oxygen in your body. So even though you've got oxygen maybe coming in on the cylinders, your body's still weakening, your mind's weakening, and you have about 48 hours to try and reach the summit and then come back again before you get major problems. There's a lot of psychology, a lot of prep, trying to get you to that position in the first place and maintain that. But again, that's for questions or another day. As these climbers were going past me, as I was sitting on some ice in the death zone, as they were walking past really slowly, I had a tablet open, and there was 200 young people in Australia looking up at a big screen of this Explorer live in the death zone on the side of Everest. And we had an interaction like this, a lesson from that area, which I'm sure will remain with these guys for the rest of their lives. That's what I do as an explorer. I go to extreme areas. I create big expeditions based around a normal human being. There's nothing bionic about me. I cut, I bleed. And I try and put that honesty through to these people and to businesses as well, because I feel that people can then relate to who you are. There are some people on TV, presenters, that are great, but it feels like they're untouchable. But if we show our weaknesses, our mistakes and our triumphs, then people will relate to that. And then it's very easy to come across and tell facts about climate change and things like that. It's a good sort of bridge to that. After that interaction, which I forgot to say, but that interaction, we now in COVID use it very, very fluidly. People are on this platform, Zoom and other platforms, and we're now using this. Wow, this is great, people are saying. Well, some of you are using it anyway. I was using it way back in the day from the extremes of the planet, thinking we can use this in our normal lives to interact. I still think, though, that you do need skin on skin, and you need to shake hands. You need to look the person in the eye if you are doing business. So I still think that needs to happen. But this is a great platform to bring people together. On the 19th of May in 2013, having moved past the death zone, I carried a unit in my backpack which would link with 10,000 students from the summit of Mount Everest. I'm not a mountaineer. I'm a polar explorer, and I feel very comfortable within the poles, operating in Antarctica and the Arctic circles. On Everest, it's very different. 8,000 meter peaks have their own heartbeat. They're very unpredictable. The greatest of climbers have suffered. So fear was very much there, but fear is a great tool to use because it keeps you alive. It keeps your senses alive. So even fear in the workplace is good because it keeps you sharp. And if you haven't got that, there's complacency that might sort of replace it. We moved traversed across to just below 8,000 meters and camped up midday. In the evening on that date, I stepped out of my tent and it was -45 with a 50-mile-an-hour side wind. And I looked up at the mountain and it was quite clear, but it was a very, very rough night. Skipping forward 200 meters away from the summit of Everest, there was 4 of us in the team, no other teams operating around us at that point. The lead guy dropped to his knees and fell into the mountain, and like a sack of potatoes. And I pulled him up to me and shouted at him, "Are you okay?" And he wasn't responding. So I went back to my second guy and I said, "I think he's dying." And then he said, "My feet are frozen. I need to head down the mountain." So I looked for the 4th partner, and he was already abseiling into the darkness. So I was in a position there where I was nearing the summit, had 10,000 people plus the bosses of Skype and Microsoft waiting for live call from the summit, and I could see the head torches of the climbers reaching the summit as well. But people were dying around me, so I needed to make a decision. And sometimes in ordinary life, in business, wherever you are, you come to that point where you need to make a decision. COVID has given some people that, where you sit there and you go, that my business is failing, my family's failing, myself, I'm failing. What do I do? The worst thing you can do in that position is not make a decision and let things just happen around you. That is the key point to all this. In moments like this, I've asked young people, what decision did I make? And they will say, well, you went to the top, you came back down, you rescued them, you did this, you did that. That's the way the mind works in different people. The reality is, I dealt with it like a human being rather than a so-called explorer. And that was to pick the guy up and carry him down to 8,000. We then met the rest of the team. My friend's feet got better. We kept him alive. In short, for 3 days, we dropped down the mountain, aborted the expedition summit. 72 days I've been operating on the mountain. And after 3 days of a descent, we moved back into base camp again, and everybody lived. And that's the key. That's a key thing to this, that everybody lived on that expedition. Doesn't usually happen. So that kind of changed my thought about how I wanted to move forward with expeditions. My next expedition is the Solo 100. It's 100 days on my own in the Arctic, isolated from the human race, but connecting with young people again. So we're asking groups of young people around the world to send in films about themselves, where they live, their culture, how they feel about the planet, what their issues are with the planet, but their pledge towards climate change. So we're going to get 100 great films every single day, one film released every single day for the 100-day expedition. And as a business, because I am a business, everything's been scuppered because of what's been happening at the moment. So my coping mechanisms, my preparation, my bringing my team together and focus for the future, I would guess is very much the same as yours. I'm open for questions. I can't hear anybody.
There we go. Mark, question for you. What did the students think when you told them you didn't make it to the mountain, to the top?
Oh yeah, I'm pleased you said that, because that was the key thing on my mind. Well, they learned more about me making that decision at that point, I think, than they would have done about me waving a flag on top of a random mountain. And we will say that, because we see people climbing Everest a lot, and it is very, very difficult. But I think the lessons were a lot more, were exacerbated really just from that act. So it was as I said, with honesty, we film and explore.
A question came in about that Tom Hardy. You working with?
Never heard of him. So. Well, yeah, I met him through mutual friends, and then we did some recording with him for the Sizzler for the documentary. Tom's moved, obviously he's busy. We're dealing with his production company, who joined up with a production company in LA. So they're very much still on board, but everything has gone silent because of COVID. But the expedition has 3 years of filming already through Africa. We work with anti-poaching teams in Africa, dog teams in Alaska, worked in inner city schools in New York, on Everest and at the North Pole. So 5 great areas there. And in schools in the UK. I work with disabled schools in the UK. So we filmed all of that and my home life. So we've got that in the can, as they say. And then the rest of it will be filmed on this solo 100 expedition. That's when they'll be brought back into this.
And one of the questions, what are your key tactics for dealing with disappointment?
You went like a Dalek then. Can you say it again, please?
It's on the chat. What are your key tactics for dealing with disappointment?
Oh, this is very cool. I'm on the side of Everest, having get down to base camp. Everything's fallen apart. It happened last year as well. If I come back to the UK without dealing with it in the moment, then 6 months, a year later, I will question my actions. So anything stressful like that, you need to, what we say is hot debrief, cold debrief. So I sit in the moment, record. So I use a dictaphone, speak about why I made these decisions. I can write things down as well. But you've got to record the moment. That's the important thing. All the learnings that you have, or the university, whatever it might have been, has brought you to the moment where you can, on paper, make that decision. But there's elements that are forcing you to make that decision as well. The stress of the moment, it might be I don't know what it is with your projects or your business, but for me, it's a strong wind, people dying, whatever it might be. That needs to be put into the moment, the hot debrief, because you will forget that 6 months down the line, and that will stay with you for the rest of your life. So a great coping mechanism is to record that moment.
You mentioned obviously your love of the planet and how we protect it in a very practical way for us, sort of here in the middle of happy UK. How do we contribute to protecting the planet in our own homes and in our own businesses? Kat Haig asked that question for us.
I think that the way to, it's been proven over the last week. I used to be a massive Liverpool fan when I was a child, and they've won the title, which is wonderful. My hope that night was, come on Liverpool, show the rest of the country how to do this. Stay at home, celebrate at home. That's why I said I was a Liverpool fan to start off with, because I know the passion. It didn't happen. They all came together. People on the beaches, they all come together. So, and I said that most of those people, I reckon, were standing on Thursday night, 8 o'clock, clapping as well. So if you leave things to humans en masse to deal with, like climate change, nothing will happen. So it's down to government, but government are governed by votes generally. That's been, a little bit sort of open with that. But it's also down to business as well, corporates, to look at it and go, how do we restructure our company? How do we look at the next 5 or 10 years? How do we look at this positively? And how do we influence other companies? So the unicorn companies of Microsoft and people like that, acting and doing the right thing will influence other companies. But we do, as humans, need structure. So governments and businesses need to structure how we live, moving forward into this new climate age, if you like, which we've known about for 60 or plus years. As individuals, we still have a role to play. People like Greta still has a role. Social media, she brings it up. She fires people's attention. She gets criticized, and that means she's saying the right things, because anybody who's doing right gets criticized. As individuals, you do act accordingly. Just treat it like your own child. You have respect. You want to train. You're not trained. You want to teach your child how to behave properly, how to act accordingly. So just treat it like that. Be that person who does change things within your household, and I'm not going to go through what it is because you know what it is. Change things within your household, go into your business, try and restructure your business as well, and inspire other people to do that. It does happen, it does work, and it makes you feel better. Have a respect for yourself, respect for the planet. That's my first two teachings I give to children.
A question from Des Wynn is, are you optimistic or pessimistic about how we're dealing with climate change?
It's a tough one. I'm optimistic, generally. I'm optimistic because I work with a lot of scientists. And the scientists, I did a little film, part of the film we're doing, it had Donald Trump on it. And I wanted to get a scientist to say a quote about him, and he said he wouldn't, because it would weaken his own science if he started to get political. So they are very much down the line, but they're not down the line, they're very much sort of honest with their science. I think one of the talks that I gave before the lockdown was to Warwick University, and Warwick Boys School, and somebody asked, what is the biggest threat to the human race? And the other speakers said climate change, climate change, climate change. And I sort of went, oh, it is climate change, obviously, but I think the biggest threat to the human race is actually ignorance. You know, ignorance is obvious in our daily news. And I think that will be the failure of the human race, to ignore these situations. I think somebody actually said to me, if they made climate change profitable, then businesses would get involved. And I think that's a very, very good suggestion. Humans are, we're probably different, but en masse we're not. I don't know whether that answered that.
You mentioned earlier that fear is a great tool to use. It keeps you sharp. Simon Cozy asks, how do you balance fear and fun in the workplace and still keep it sharp?
It's funny, isn't it? Yeah, fun is a massive thing. In the military, they have certain structured words that they use, teamwork, communications, and fun is part of it. In the work, whenever I work, you've got to, be focused, work as a team, but you've got to have elements of fun there. As a 53-year-old man, I struggle with fun, but I'm self-employed, so yeah, it is. You've got to make sure. I think part of the fun is being relaxed in your work and making sure that people are focused in the work and that they're able to pay their mortgage. There's no point in breaking out the balloons if you're not getting your mortgage paid. So I think that if you have great leadership, meaning that you allow people to be themselves and to be creative and to do the job that they've been employed to do, and then to feel that they can go back and speak to that leader and say, look, I'm having a bit of a problem here, and to be open about their own weakness in that particular time, that led to a great company, a great ethic of the company. And the leader's then position is to look at the team and to work with them and then to guide the project or the business to whatever goal you're going for. That's the great leadership that you should have, and keep the communications flowing through it. And at that point, then you sense that everybody's tired from the week, then you add fun to it. Fun comes when people feel like they've deserved it, and false fun is terrible. And you know what I mean by that. So,
yeah. Yeah, it's not just about playing snooker in the cafe. Looking at the sort of strengths that keep you going, obviously there's a physical strength, but how do you develop your mental strength for what you do and things that we can learn from that?
Yeah, that's a question that's got me before, because somebody said to me, are you born with mental strength or do you develop it? Which I thought was a great question. And I couldn't answer it then, really, because I don't really know. But I think that if you are passionate about, when I was in the military, I wasn't a great soldier. I was okay. I was an average soldier, average firefighter. And when I stepped into the world of exploration, I am average. I'm an average explorer. I'm not the greatest. Neil Armstrong sorted that out. He landed on the moon, and then all of us went, oh, well, we can relax now. We don't have to achieve the greatest achievement. He's done it. Well done, Neil. He took the pressure off. So I think that I've just lost my brain. Say it again.
Building your own mental strength.
Yeah, so I think that when I stepped into exploration, I went into different areas, guiding, training teams, being guided, being pushed in front of film crews. And each time I was learning and developing and things like that. So I started to learn my trade. And then I started to do solo work, which is an immense step into exploration. And I think with that, you then have the confidence in yourself. And then all you have to do is believe, have the passion and drive to do what you want to do. And the mental strength, I feel, develops from that. One foot in front of the other. Keeping things simplistic as well is really key to mental strength and achievement. If you overcomplicate your goals, then the speed that you achieve is, and the achievement itself, it's very cloudy, if you like. So keeping things very, very simple, communication simple is important as well. So yeah, I personally think it develops over time, and yeah, but you do have moments where you doubt yourself. So South Pole solo across Antarctica, I broke down on the 5th day because it was the hardest part, the first part of the expedition, first part of business, first part of going back from COVID into the workplace is the hardest, because for me, it's a heavy sledge, you're heavy built because you need that muscle and fat. You've got 700 miles in front of you of an Antarctic ice. So the stress on your brain is incredible. Going back into the workplace after COVID, people are like, what are we doing? So for any leaders out there, I think it's important to recognize that there may be people out, well, don't guess, second guess. Get people into en masse in front of you and say, you know, it's been a troubled time. This is what we're going to do next. And then get individuals in. Bring everybody in individually. Don't just pick on what you think is the weakest, because you'll be surprised. And it's just chat to them. And if you're a man and you're chatting to an 18-year-old girl, it might not be the right thing. So bring in different people to chat to different people. Does that make sense? It's kind of,
yeah.
You know, don't think they're just going to go back to work as normal. There are major issues here that people have had to deal with. Some people have had to deal with death, not seeing their families, unsure of work, being short of money, maybe they're furloughed, you know, lots of problems that we've all gone through. Who's going to talk to me?
We're here. And so lastly, if you've got a minute, just to, if there is such a thing as a quick answer to this, Charlie asks us, what is your why?
What is my what, sorry?
Why? What is your why?
Why do I do what I do? I was in the very privileged position of 18 years ago of recognizing my passion straight away. And at that point, it wasn't about, well, even now, it's not about money, personal money. It's not about possessions. It's about fulfillment. So 18 years ago, I had a mortgage, a nice house, a great job in Windsor, and I gave all that up. And just literally headed into the unknown of exploration and business. And the reality of that was living back at home with my dad, and not having any money, but having the drive and passion and desire to move forward with this unknown product. I wouldn't ask anybody to be as radical as that, but it does help if you believe in what you're doing. And what whoever said about fun earlier, it's a tremendous, that's a real key thing, to have fun. If I didn't enjoy what I do, there's no point in doing it, I don't think. And I couldn't do it. The stuff I do on ice is hard. the stuff I do in preparation to get these expeditions going is really hard. So I've got to have the passion, drive, fun within there to make it some sort of success.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Mark. I like the sort of final phrase it's going to stay with me. It's about fulfillment, which is a really strong message to leave on there. Thank you again, Mark, for coming to talk to us today and for being our speaker on Monday Motivation. Wednesday, of course, we have our wellbeing session at 11 o'clock, and then on the 2nd, on Thursday, 9 o'clock, we have Warwick District Council coming to talk to us, and that's Andrew Day, the leader, and also their finance guy is coming to talk as well. So local business, get involved. Thank you again, Mark, and wish you all the well. I understand you're only 850,000 short for your 100-day exploration, so we need to pass the hat around. Do you want to just quickly mention your book and where we can help put a bit of coffers into your tin?
Yeah, sure. I'll put the link up again now, if you like. So that's going on there. So my link is up there. The books, one is called Solo Explorer, and it's about what I've just talked about. It's a journey from sort of the centre of the UK to the summit of Everest, if you like. I should have used that in the book. And the other book is called Rock and Ice, and it's a collection of my favourite photographs from all the expeditions I've done. So if you buy them, a section of the money goes to Sherborne Fields School in Coventry, which are disabled children that I work with. I guide them up mountains in the UK, and I remember one girl who was severely disabled, and we were about 100 metres from the summit of Snowdon, and she went, "Mark, you can't go any further," because she never reached the summit. So I just love the way the kids think. But yeah, the books are out there anyway. Thank you.
The next one, Coventry to Kathmandu.
That's great. I like that.
Yeah. So thanks very much, Mark.
Really
Thank
great.
you everyone for joining with us today, and look out for who we have coming up next week and in future weeks. Good to see Manly on the call today. He's with us in a few weeks' time again, so looking forward to that. So you're all on the mail list, and look forward to seeing you again. So time for our traditional, hang on, put it on to gallery view. We've got to do our big zoom wave of the Explorer, then I can take a nice picture of everybody.
Picture as well.
Okay, there we go.
Cheers,
see you all
Mark.
next week. Thank you very much, everyone.
Just say Manly. Give me a call, Manly, if you can.
Will do.
Cheers, buddy.
Brilliant. Thank you all very much. Look forward to seeing you in the week.
Take
Bye-bye.
care.